evening, everybody. Welcome to folks who haven't either been here ever or in a while. This is the first installment of our 2018 Petroleum Program Series. Every year we do a series of workshops, lectures, demonstrations. Sometimes we have music every Thursday in March. And we are very pleased tonight to have Joe Minnitte with us from Shell to talk about the project overview that they are doing in Potter County. I want to thank, Potter Township, not Potter County. I want to thank our sponsors, the Crawford Heritage Community Foundation, the Oil Region Alliance of Business, Industry, and Tourism, the Keystone Community Education Council, and the Northwest PA Oil and Gas Hub, the Titusville Community Development Agencies, and the Association of Desk and Derrick Clubs. Through their generous sponsorships, we are able to bring in great speakers this year and have a really entertaining series. So just a little bit of housekeeping for those of you who haven't been here. Restrooms are through this door past the main desk or out the back door to your left. Emergency exits are out both sets of doors, out the back door to the right, most of you came in the front door, back out this door and through the front door. If there is an emergency, which we don't think there will be. We promise to get you out of here before it starts snowing. So Joe's going to talk to us, and we are going to leave some time for questions. I'm sure everybody will be interested and have questions to ask him. So without further ado, please welcome Joe Minnitte.
Am I okay to take this? Perfect. Great. Good evening, everyone. How are you? Good. Thanks for having me tonight. So as it was mentioned, my name is Joe Minnitte. I work with Shell. And just to give you a quick overview of myself, just to get us acquainted, grew up here in Pennsylvania. I actually used to work, been with Shell for about 6 years. Worked in upstream, so I worked in Tioga County and Potter County, Bradford, and some other areas down south in Pennsylvania. And came over to this project, the cracker plant that you may have heard about 2 years ago. And it's a pretty exciting project. Just out of curiosity, does anybody know what the cracker plant is? So who would guess what we make, or what we're going to make? Shoes. I don't even know how to come back at shoes. It's probably the greatest answer that I've ever gotten. Well done. No, so I'll go into that in a little bit and tell you a little bit about what it is we're going to do and where we're at in the project and give you kind of an entire overview. But before we get started, I want everybody to read this slide for me really quickly. I'm just kidding. That's a slide that our attorneys have us show. All it says is that based on what you hear tonight, based on what you hear, if you decide to buy our stock or sell our stock, you do so at your own risk, is all that says. So I can't believe they did it in so few words. So quick safety orientation. We always like to start off our meetings with a bit of a safety orientation. So we don't anticipate any drills. I don't think there's any planned drills here tonight, right? So if there is a drill, you hear something, it's the real deal. We'll all exit out this door and out the main doors, and we'll muster maybe over by the parking lot there. So with that said, I want to give you a little bit of an overview of us, some of the things that are important to us, and obviously safety is one of the key elements of our work. So like I mentioned before, anybody else have a guess on what we're going to make once our plant's operational?
Ethane and ethylene?
Well, we're actually going to make, so close, we're going to take ethane and turn it into polyethylene pellets, essentially, yeah. So little plastic pellets that will be sold and made into plastic products. So I'll show you a little bit more about that as we go. But to talk a little bit about safety, this is a safety day, and so I don't know if you're how familiar you are with our project, but it's a pretty large-scale project. It's one of the largest in North America as far as construction projects go. And what we like to do is focus our folks on safety. So we have right now somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,300 people working on the site. At the peak of construction, it's going to be about 6,000. So it's a pretty intense, pretty incredible, and large-scale job. And one of the things we want to instill right from the beginning is safety on our project. So this is a site safety day that we do once a quarter. I bring in a speaker. I don't know if anybody recognizes the speaker that's up there. That's Rocky Blyer, former Pittsburgh Steeler and Vietnam vet, and just an incredible guy. Came out and spoke to our folks, and we do this. I've brought out Joey Logano, who's our NASCAR driver, Mike Durant, who's actually, if anybody saw the movie Black Hawk Down, he was the pilot of the Black Hawk that got shot down. So it really some incredible speakers, and the whole gist of the afternoon. This is about a 2-hour event. These folks are all getting paid to sit there. We shut the site down. We bring in a speaker. We bring in local folks, local police, and so on to talk to our folks. And the whole idea is to stop everyone, focus them. Of course, we've got deadlines and we've got things we've got to meet, but to focus our folks on safety is something that's really important to us. Another piece of safety, now, has anybody been down by our site at all? So a few of you. So you've seen it, and so this may or may not mean anything to you, but this is a new road that we put in. This is the Route 18 that runs right in front of us. We moved about a mile of highway. So originally this ran through the middle of our site about 900 feet this way, which is where our site's located. This was moved over, and the whole reason for this was safety, to move it out of the interior of our site, but also to create, we're going to have 6,000 construction workers, so you can imagine the traffic impacts that could potentially have, right? And we're going to bus those folks in. But in order to do that, we took it from a 1 lane in both directions to this, where you can see 2 lanes in both directions, along with turning lanes to the right as well in the middle. So one of the things that we do to help increase the safety of our local residents and minimize impacts from our construction project. So what you're going to see here tonight, I'm going to talk a bit about these goals, and everything that I talked to you about what we do and what our site is doing and our project's doing. These are our 3 goals: keeping people safe, protecting the environment, and being a good neighbor. And those you'll see woven into everything that we do. And you can keep an eye out for some of those. Whoops. There we go. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a project overview here. So this is the original Horsehead site that was there just a few years ago. This is before we took over the plant. And you can take a look. This is when it was still operational. And you can see the layout and kind of what things look like. Now I'll fast forward you to the middle of last year, and that's what the site looked like there. So you can see the incredible difference that we made here. So to give you an idea, this was the original Route 18 that ran right here through the middle. Let's see, is there a pointer on here? There we go. So that was the original Route 18 that ran through the site right here. This is the new Route 18. So you can see the major improvement that we made on just over a mile of highway. But also, when you look at this, you can see the environmental work that's done. You can see the contrast between what was there and what's there now. And I think that's a significant contribution, really, to the people of Western Pennsylvania. This area over here, let's see if I can point to it there. If you take a look over here, this actually was all hillside. So you can see how these are sloped here. That actually extended out all the way to the old Route 18 over here. So we took all that dirt and used it as fill for the site. So we did what's called an Act 2 closure on the site. And what that is there's about 100 years of environmental impacts on this site from industrial activity. That essentially caps the site and keeps any of the potential items that might be in the soil locked in place, right? So create a clean, level site in order to construct our facility on. So fast forward to about a week ago, actually. This is what our site looked like here. So you can see the contrast over the last year, essentially, what it's looked like. So to give you an idea of what you're looking at, this is the I-376 bridge up top here. So that is the interstate. And then this is essentially the main portion of our site. What you have here in the foreground is the area where the ethane cracking unit will be. That's where the ethane will come in, be heated up. And then over here on the other side, you've got a cogeneration area, so we're going to create our own electricity and then sell that back into the grid. And then over here, you'll see what's shaping up to be the cooling towers. And I'll show you some pictures here that'll kind of put it in perspective of what you're looking at. This is one of them. So the last picture we were looking at it, from over in this area over here. So we were looking to the east, essentially, across the site. So what you were seeing that was starting to come out of the ground there is the ethane cracking unit with the 7 furnaces. That will heat the ethane to 1,500 degrees in order to crack the molecules. Over here was the cogeneration area. And then here is the area where it's our cooling towers. So you'll see it, I'll show you a video here at the end to give you a little bit better idea of what happens, and it'll take you through the site. And then over here are our polyethylene units. So essentially what happens is those little plastic pellets that are kind of tiny, I'll show you a picture here shortly, they come into those PE units there on your left side, and those are chopped up into little pieces and then loaded onto trains and shipped out to customers. So that gives you kind of an idea of what the site's going to look like once it's completed. So the question, why Western Pennsylvania? There were several sites that were actually considered, and obviously here, it's probably no stranger to folks in this room that there's a great supply in the Marcellus and Utica shales here. This was one of the main reasons that this area was chosen, in Beaver County in particular, because you've got local access to the feedstock. So that saves shipping costs of sending it down to the Gulf Coast, as well as some other beneficial factors. But that's one of the key ones, is that we've got an actual local source of ethane that can be supplied to the plant. So, so next, another key factor that went into making this decision. So we're going to make polyethylene pellets, little plastic pellets that are sold. And this area, and Beaver County in particular, is actually located within 700 miles of 70% of that market. So the customers are all within 700 miles, which is pretty significant. You can see that illustrated here to the side. And why it's so significant is, one, it saves in shipping costs as far as getting that product to customers, but it also allows us a quicker turnaround time to supply customers with product and things like that. So another reason that this site in particular was chosen was the access that we've got to the I-376, which you saw in that previous picture, as well as the access to rail, which is where about 85% of our product will be shipped via rail. And then you've also got access to the Ohio River. And the Ohio River, actually, we won't be shipping product out on there, but we'll use the Ohio River to bring in some of the larger scale equipment that comes to our site, as well as turnaround times. So that's what that will be used for. So it makes for much easier logistics around a site like this. And also, for instance, using the river allows us to minimize impacts on the roads. So protecting the environment, I think, is something that's incredibly important to us, and we take a lot of steps. And I'm going to show you a couple of things that we've done, in addition to the site that you saw, the before and after pictures that you saw. So this is some of the work we did. I mentioned to you that we moved a lot of that dirt in order to cap the site. These are the 777 trucks here on your left that were used to move that dirt. They're incredibly large, and we used 7.2 million cubic yards, or we moved 7.2 million cubic yards of dirt in order to do that. So you can see we've created a retention pond there, essentially, and the grass is growing, and so some of that, compared to what you saw in the previous picture that was there, it's a pretty significant improvement. But the 7.2 million cubic yards was an incredible amount of dirt to move. To give you kind of a perspective on how much dirt that is, if you filled Heinz Field 2.5 times, that's how much dirt was used in order to cap and create that level site that you saw. So the site itself it averages 7 feet across the site as far as fill is concerned, and again, creates a level site. So pretty significant earthwork, right? Part of what we did as well is we created some culverts. There were 2 streams that actually ran through our site. And we created these culverts because, one, we needed to divert these underground and didn't want those to come into contact with soil based on potential issues from the previous industrial activity. So these were created in order to let those streams flow through our site without ever touching the soil underground. So a safe delivery of the water coming from the hillside down to the Ohio River. In addition, so as part of that, when we do that, it's considered an impact to the waterways. So what's done here is a wetland mitigation project that we did. So in order to offset that, we helped restore a wetland. This is actually in Washington County. And you can see to the left the before picture of what that looked like, and then on the right the after picture. There's probably some better pictures because the hillsides there haven't grown in yet, but you can see a significant improvement, and wildlife has returned. There's fish in the stream now, things like that. So it's really, I think, an incredible testament to some of the things that we do in our industry to help protect and preserve the environment. So another part of what we did for our work on our site is we had to tear down some of the trees in order to create an area. We had to build a retaining wall that you can see on the right-hand side picture there. And so we took down some trees. And one of the commitments we made to the community is we got some feedback from folks across the river that they didn't like looking at a bare hillside, and it took away from the view. So we planted 2 trees for every tree that we took down. And you can see there on the right, you can see the guys planting them here on the left, but on the right we used some fairly mature trees, roughly 4 to 8 years old on each of those, and I think we planted somewhere in the neighborhood of about 300 along there. So again, it's another way to work with the community but also create something great as far as the environment's concerned. So this is something else we did. Now, you saw that original picture that I showed you, and there was a lot going on the old site. And one of those things were the lattice towers. We had several lattice towers, electrical towers on the site. And what we did is we had to take those down and create a clean open area on the site. And on top of one of those lattice towers was an osprey nest. And we needed to get that to move. So what we did is we built an osprey nest just along the river there, and in hopes that the osprey would take to that instead of going to the lattice tower, which they did. You can see there. This actually was taken in 2016, which is when we built this, which was an election year. So we had a naming contest for those 2 osprey. Anybody want to guess their names? Donald and Hillary, that's right, yeah. So Donald and Hillary live in harmony on our site, so how about that? So we built another one actually just down from there in hopes that some more will take to that as well. So again, it's just some of those little things that you can do to help environmentally and keep harmony. So talk to you a little bit about the operations of our site. So I mentioned to you, I showed you a picture where we are. We're obviously in the ramp up phases of construction. And this, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the operations will be like. So in downstream, and maybe many of you know this, being from this area where everything started, but in downstream oil and gas business, hydrocarbon molecules go through various processes to rearrange the molecules. So essentially, on our site, I mentioned that the ethane is going to be heated up in order to crack those molecules in order to make polyethylene pellets so that plastic items can be made. So there's a lot of things that our industry brings that helps enhance our lives and make our lives much more convenient. Many of our household goods and items and things that will be made from our plant will go into many folks' homes and be used, totes and containers and detergent bottles, a number of things. So that's just kind of an idea on the downstream side of some of the things that go into our everyday lives. So the cracker plant itself, we call it the Pennsylvania Chemicals Project, and a lot of folks refer to it as the cracker plant. But essentially, what I mentioned, the ethane's heated and the molecules essentially are cracked, and then pressure's applied, and then there's cooling that happens with it, and it essentially turns into ethylene, and then we turn that into polyethylene pellets. So that's kind of just a brief overview, but quite a bit of equipment and a pretty extensive process that it goes through. So this is the end result. You get polyethylene pellets. Now this is actually, these look slightly different than very similar in size, but ours look a little more white as opposed to the clear. So, but that's essentially what they will look like, and they'll be loaded into rail cars and some on truck and transported out in order to make a lot of household goods that we use every day. So with a project like ours, there's a lot of expectation. A lot of folks want to be involved, want to take part. So we do a lot of work with workforce development as well as within the community. So I'll show you a few of those things that we do. This is something that we just did, I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, something like that. This is something that we've done, developing the relationship with the local community college. This is our, on the right-hand side is our vice president. Her name's Hillary Mercer. She just came onto the project in the fall. And on the left is Chris Reber. He's the president of the community college. What the community college did is they created a process technology program in order to create training that will train folks to be operators. Give them training to have the ability to work in a plant like ours, but also they could work at a number of other facilities. So this is a really key piece of training for people in the area to get additional training that want to work in our industry. So this was $1 million donation that we did towards their process technology program to help expand the program and create a better space and more equipment that's going to better serve the students. The students you see behind them there in the blue overalls, those are students actually that receive scholarships. So we did something with the school in order to create something that helped reward the students as well as give them access to folks in our operations area. And we did interviews. We had an application process, and these folks all interviewed, and these were the successful ones out of the ones that applied. But they get a $2,500 scholarship in order to help defray the cost of schooling. And again, it's a great way to connect with the community in terms of training and helping to provide training. You know, our facility this is the first facility to be built like this in more than 25 years in the United States. So it's been quite a while. And certainly in the Northeast, nothing like this really exists in the U.S. So it's very new to the area, but it very much identifies with who we are. I grew up here in Pennsylvania. We're blue collar. We're proud of that. And this helps take that training and knowledge to another level. So it's something that really proud to be a part of and to bring to the community. So that's just an idea of something that we've done in terms of helping to develop the locals to be able to take advantage of work in our facility. This is a picture of something that we did. So I like to do volunteer activities and actually take our engineers and our general managers and so on out to meet the community and do some work and do things to help beautify the community. So this was a park restoration that we did. And what I like to point out to folks is in doing this guy right here, his name's Jeff Cravey. He's our general manager for operations. So to me, it always speaks volumes when you can get a general manager to come out and do work like this with a shovel and shovel mulch and paint and do all those kind of things. So again, we have our environmental manager over here as well. His name's Jim Sewell. And then a number of us, and I'm poking my head out over here. So it's, again, it's just a fun way to get in the community and put a face with a project like this. You know, a large project, 6,000 people, it kind of can become lost. And we like to put a face and remind people that it's actually people that run this business. This is the before and after picture of the project that we did. So I'm pretty proud of the way that came out. This is another playground that we did in our area to kind of to restore that, and we planted some bushes and trees and things around the area. So again, just ways for us to do things and help better the community. This is another one. This is kind of an interesting story because these barns, they're located in Potter Township where our project is, just maybe a mile or two away from our site. And this is something that the local Independence Conservancy is their name, and them with the township, they're looking to put together a environmental learning center. And so these barns were actually used during World War II to hide fuel, and they were built like barns so that if enemy planes were to fly over, it would look like a farm, and then they would funnel that through piping down to the river in order to transport the fuel. So these have a significant historical factor. There's a couple of these on the site. It's really interesting to see and see, kind of envision what they used to do. But it had gone into disrepair, and the township wanted to use it. They're structurally sound. They want to redo them. So this was something where we, again, got some of our engineers out to the site. In fact, the guy that's shoveling here in the green jacket, the yellow-green jacket, he was our project director on the site. So he was in charge of all that 7.2 million cubic yards that we moved. So again, it shows a commitment from our leadership. But it is great to get to leave something for the community in order to do something to help train the next generation and show them some environmental stewardship. This is a piece that we do with the Salvation Army every year. So this is the Treasures for Children program. We've been able to provide gifts for 166 kids over the last 3 years. So it's again, this is something that takes place not only from our folks in Pennsylvania, but we have people working on this project all over the world. So a lot of these gifts were sent in from Houston and other areas in order to take part in this. So it's again, it's nice to be able to, with a large company, bring things to the greater community like this. To show you one more, this is it's kind of an interesting photo. So we do a lot of social investment in the community, and we try to do things that enhance the community, that provide education, but that also take care of the environment. So there's a local organization that I found that cleans up an area called the Connoquenessing Creek. I don't know if you've heard of the Connie. So they clean it up and they take a 10-mile stretch each year. And the way that this organization came about was they were kayaking on the river, on the creek one day, and they had to move to the side in order to go around a lawnmower that was in the middle, a riding mower that was in the middle of the creek. And so they decided this is enough. We've got to start an organization and get volunteers and clean it up. So that's what they've been doing for the last several years. This was just this last year where they took out 732 tires. So that's not even all the tires. They go, gosh, pretty far either direction. But yeah, it's pretty impressive that that they did all that work, and it's even more puzzling how that many tires end up in a creek. But again, it's a really neat and fun way to get to do something that really matters in the community, right? And so that's something I'm particularly proud of. This and again, this is something. This is a cleanup that we did on the left here, on your left, of the Ohio River, which is what our site will use. And on the right is a program that we did for junior achievement. We participated in their bowl-a-thon, and they raised $11,185. So we matched that. So they got effectively a little over $22,000 for some of the education programs that they're providing in Beaver County. So, and just to point out, you can see here again, Rocky Blyer has shown up again for our event. But one person I want to point out here, this guy right here, his name is Atta Visser. And just a really fantastic guy. He's from the Netherlands. He was our vice president before Hillary, who I showed you earlier. And Atta's the person that really did, we all did a lot of work to get this project approved, but Atta's the one that took it to our board and actually got this project approved. So it's a pretty significant accomplishment. He's now since retired, just retired, but I'd just like to point him out. Then over here on the right here is our general manager again, Jeff. So again, it's all of our leadership coming out to support a good local cause. And then this doesn't hurt. Rocky Blyer let our general manager wear all 4 of his Super Bowl rings. So I like to show that so I'm golden with him for at least a couple more months. This is something, so I always like to point out, in Western Pennsylvania, the support that we get from the local community. For a project like this, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And a lot of that work only gets done if we have cooperation from the community. And so we've had great cooperation. Now you look at this and you see protesters, right? And you go, oh, wow, that's significant. But if you look closer at the signs, these actually, you can read the signs, thank you, Pennsylvania Chemicals, and I can't read some of the other ones, but these were actually protesters that showed up to protest our protesters. So pretty significant, right? When we were going through a conditional use in order to get the permits from the township to build the facility, and we had some folks show up that weren't fans of the project, they weren't local either. So these folks came out and wanted to show their support for the work that we were doing. So again, I think the reason I show some of the pictures that I did show of our work in the community and that engagement is just to show a bit of how we try to build a relationship with the community and get feedback from the community. So a lot of the things that I've shown you, the moving of Route 18, and we've done things with our lighting to change our lighting plans, things like that are all based on feedback that we get from the community in order to either minimize impacts or create a better looking facility as far as folks from the outside are concerned. So what I'd like to wrap up with is talk just a little bit about opportunities. So is there anyone that works in this industry that's here? I don't know, is anyone interested in the potential opportunities with our project? So I thought I'd share just a little bit about that, and then we can tell, I have questions at the end and so on. But the opportunities with our project. So to go through those, we've got stages to our project. So we finished our early works part of our project, which was where we did all the earthwork, the earth moving and so on. And this is the actual main work site construction that you'll see. So you can see a listing of some of the positions that we'll need: carpenters, laborers, plumbers. And to let you know, when it comes to the workforce, the craft workforce on the site, they are, it's a union job for the build. So these folks are all being supplied by the union halls. So when it comes to 6,000 workers, you can imagine that it's all hands on deck as far as getting those folks. So there will be work as far as that's concerned. So that's some of the work that'll be available at the beginning part here of the construction. Now, secondly, we have a warehouse that's located just down the river from our site. This is in Appalachia, Hopewell area. It's technically in Hopewell, but it's really kind of considered Appalachia for everyone that's there. But this is right along the river, and you can see. I'll show you a picture right after this slide. But this is the warehouse. That'll have about 200 workers that will work there. And again, those will be supplied by the local union halls. It's 200,000 square feet. It sits on 139 acres. Pretty significant. And we'll have, this is where all of our materials that come in will be stored and then shipped up to the site, either by rail or truck or potentially barge. So that gives you an idea. We'll have trucks entering, leaving the site, bringing the materials in. So we'll need truck drivers. There'll be tracking specialists. So it'll be a state-of-the-art tracking system in order to know what you've got there on the site, et cetera. So that gives you an idea there. And that's just a better picture of the warehouse itself. It's picture doesn't quite do it justice. It's a pretty large site, a pretty large warehouse. And then finally, the operating site roles. So I talked a bit about the construction, and most people hear 6,000 jobs and wow, but that's only going to last for a short time. Once that's completed and the site goes operational, which will be early next decade, that will be an operational site, and we'll have about 600 permanent workers that'll be at the site. And those 600 workers, you can see some of those positions that'll be there. So we'll have maintenance, we'll have electrical engineers, chemical engineers, et cetera. So you can see all of those. That will be the long-term jobs. So to talk, I just want to talk a little bit about the project resources here. So I talked to you about the construction, talked to you about the way the operational facility will function. So I want to talk about the players that are involved and what that looks like. Because on the outside you look and it's a shell project, but there's a lot of different players involved, and that's what I wanted to kind of explain to you. So Bechtel is our main works construction company. They are controlling the build. So they are the ones that are controlling the site during the construction. So that is one company that potentially you could look at if you're looking for potential employment. They've also formed a joint venture with McCarles as well as B&W, and they're known as Great Arrow Builders. So Bechtel, B&W, and McCarles formed a company known as Great Arrow Builders. And then once the site's constructed, it will then be owned by us. So over the next few years into early next decade here, it will be controlled by Bechtel and Great Arrow Builders as far as the craft work and the construction work. And then once it goes into operations, it kind of shifts over into a kind of a different animal, so to speak. So that just kind of gives you a little bit of an overview on what that looks like. So the resources, where would you go and what do you do if you want to take advantage of that? And you're welcome to take a picture of that if you like, or write it down, I guess. But to give you an idea, so for the construction portion of it, there's a great one-stop shop which is on the Bechtel website that we've created. And what that is it's Bechtel.com/Pennsylvania-chemicals. And what that does is kind of gives you a one-stop shop where you can go on there and you can see there's a link to Bechtel. There's also a link to McCarles as well as B&W. And then there's one for Shell as well that you can go to our careers page. But it's a nice one-stop way to be able to see what's out there. And it'll kind of give you a little bit of an overview of the project, and it'll show you, I think it has a couple pictures on there as well. Now the other angle of it, that's for folks looking for, if you're not part of the union, let's say, and you're looking for other positions that might be with Bechtel or McCarles, this would be the place to go. If you have a company and you're looking to supply goods and services, or you want to be contracted or as a subcontractor for something that Bechtel or Great Aero Builders is doing, those are the things that are located on your right there. So on the right, there's 2 email addresses, and there's actually an underscore on that top one that you can't see. So it's PROC_PA@Bechtel.com. And the way those are set up, so this is a mega project. You can imagine we've got a lot of interest. A lot of folks want to find their way to be able to work or supply things for the site. So what we've set up are these 2 email addresses, whether you're selling goods and services or you're looking to be a subcontractor. You can go on here, you send an email to these addresses, identify yourself, just say what you are, what you provide, just a little bit of brief background around that. And then what they'll do, the folks at Bechtel will get that information, and they will send it back to you, a pre-qualification package. And you'll fill that information out and send it back, and you'll have communication strictly really through the email. And then what happens is once you go through that process and you're registered, they will reach out to you once bidding opportunities come available. So that kind of gives you an idea on that side of things, whether you have a business or you're looking to work for one of these companies, whether it's administrative support or whatever the case might be. So one thing not to get confused with, and actually just to let you know, that information, we're working to have that, because that goes to Bechtel, transferred over to our operations side. So if you provide more goods and services or you're looking to be contracted, that information, once you submit that, will also be supplied to Shell. So there'll be an opportunity. We'll have that. Our contracts and procurement folks will have that information and be able to reach out if there's a potential fit. So that's the construction side, Bechtel, McCarles, B&W. And then to talk just a little bit about the Shell side of things and how that looks. So we've got a couple of websites here for you. These are specific to Shell. So at the top, we have a project website. And this project website will give you an overview of the project. It'll show you some pictures. There's some frequently asked questions that are on there. It lists, there's an email contact. There's a toll-free number you can call that actually rings to us at the site. So that's all the shell.us/poly-e at the top there. Now, something unique that we've created for this project here in Pennsylvania, I mean, so we get an incredible amount of inquiries of people looking to be employed by Shell, wanting to know what's available, that sort of thing, which is great. And we created a site here to help put that out there to folks on a place to register, a place where they can go and get an idea of what types of jobs are available. So on this second website you see listed there, it's shell.us/PA jobs. And what we created this site to do is we created it, it's part of what we call Shell Talent Community. And what that is it allows you to go to the site, get some of your questions answered through some of the frequently asked questions and things. But there's also a link to register. And what you do when you go into register is you can choose from a drop-down box of somewhere around a dozen different things. So there'll be production, there'll be business administration support, those type of things. What you do when you choose that and then you put your information in, you can also upload your resume, and that goes directly to our recruitment team. What they do is then they have access to see your resume if you've uploaded it, but if you didn't upload it, that's okay if you don't want to do that. What it will do, based on what you choose, so if you were to choose engineering, for instance, anytime there's an engineering job that gets posted on our website for the Pennsylvania Chemicals project, our project there, you'll get an email and you'll be able to go online to apply. So it's one way to proactively, if you're not going out to the site to check it every day, this is one way to put something in and get a notification when there's something that's available that might be a fit. Next is the careers site. So that careers site is actually something that you can go to, and there's a number of things that you'll find on there. So again, you'll get answers to questions, but you'll also find internship programs. So any of you that have kids or grandkids that are in college and might be looking for that kind of thing, Shell has an incredible program for that, internship program. It's a paid internship program. They may send you any number of places throughout the world, actually, and you get to work for the summer, you get paid, and it's a great way. I've known a few people that have gotten hired through that program. So it's a good thing to pass on, that career site, but also it's a great place and a good resource to find the Shell jobs that are located all around the world. So you can go in, and I believe you can create a profile and go through the site as well. But yeah, you can get an overview of not just Pennsylvania, but around the country and around the world. So it's a really good resource. And then finally there at the bottom is an 800 number that we have set up, which actually rings to us at the site. We have someone that answers that, and when you get her, whatever question you might have, if it's an issue with, or you forget, or your picture got deleted, or you lost the paper that you wrote the websites down on, you can call that number, and we'll be glad to give it to you and help walk you through that process. So that's kind of a quick, in a nutshell, some of the things that we have going on as far as being a project. There were about 40 pictures there, so if you want me to go back or show you anything, I'm happy to do that. So that essentially is everything I wanted to present. I'm happy to go back and show additional pictures or things if I went through it a little bit quickly, but glad to answer any questions you might have. Yes, sir.
They were going to recycle plastic at that point.
So we're working actually on a program to bring recycling more widely in the region. So I mean, things that may become waste or things like that, of course, we'll recycle that. But when it comes to a broader reach, yes, we're looking at different things we can do within the community to increase the availability and the frequency of recycling. Yeah. Yes?
How do you receive the ethane? Is it separated before you get it? And does condensate play a role in this at all from the wet gas?
No, so we'll take the ethane in. Yes, it'll be separated before it comes into the site. So we'll receive the feed of ethane via pipeline. That'll come in pipeline from area in Ohio and West Virginia, or I'm sorry, Houston, PA area, and will come directly to our site. So, yeah. Yes, was there a question back there? No?
Why will your pellets be whiter?
Well, that was a different grade. So what we're going to make two different kinds and 52 different grades of those two different kinds. So we'll make linear low density polyethylene and high density polyethylene. So the low density would be like your cling wrap, soft plastics, your bag that you put fruit in at the grocery store, things like that. The high density will be the things like a tote or milk containers, things like that are a bit harder. Pipe that carries water, or things like that. So we'll make 52 different grades, I believe, of those two kinds. So anywhere from very, very hard plastic all the way to very, very soft.
That's not unique to the Marcellus.
No, it's just the types of polyethylene that we'll make. Yeah. Yes, sir.
What kind of waste product comes off of this? I'm thinking out of the gas that's coming in there, you're gonna have leftover stuff, and I was wondering what's happening with that.
Yeah, good question. There will be, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. Part of it will be used in order to fuel aspects of the plant, but the others I couldn't speak to it because I just don't remember. Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Twitch's video didn't show much about the water shipping, and you mentioned it would be a little bit. Is it just less practical to do water shipping than by truck or by rail?
Well, some of the equipment that we'll have come into the site is so large that really can't be permitted to go on the roads. So that will come in via barge to the site. as well as some of the other equipment that will come in that will be either a little too large or close to too large, so we'll ship it in via barge. The product that goes out will actually, about 85% is going to be just by rail, and the rest will be by truck. But we're not going to be shipping product out via barge. Yeah, it's not going to be going out on the river. It's either truck or rail.
Is that just because it's not as practical?
Well, I think that it serves our needs. There's the access to the rail. It's I think much easier in terms of shipping. We'll have a rail loading facility. We'll have a truck loading facility. There's really no need for it to be shipped by barge. Yes.
Your source of heat in the cracking, is that electric or is it?
Yeah, we'll have a cogeneration unit that'll produce the electric that'll be used there on the site.
To heat the cracker?
Now there may be other things at play as far as there'll be gas as well. There'll be natural gas as well, but we will also produce the electricity. So there'll be a mixture. To answer your question, a mix. Yes.
The Marcellus Shale, is the infrastructure ready for, to send all this gas down here?
So a good question. So there's actually a group within Shell that is working to construct the pipeline. So the pipeline is being put into place. It's not currently in place. That'll be sometime over the next, year and a half time frame that they'll be actually hitting the ground to put that in. I think it's somewhere around 92 miles of pipeline that'll be going in, somewhere in that neighborhood. But that's being handled by another group within Shell, not us. But so to answer your question, it's in the process.
Follow-up is the pipeline is going from the east across Pennsylvania. Is it going to be into this too, or?
As far as supplying ethane, no, not that I'm aware of. No, it's going to be coming from Cadiz, Ohio, and Houston, Pennsylvania. So I'm not aware of anything coming from any other area.
Some of that plastic will make it up here to the plastic plants, or?
Very possible. So we have a commercial team that's actually working on putting together that list of customers and what that looks like. So it's possible. I don't know if we have customers that we don't sell anything yet, but we're talking to folks as potential customers. But it's a possibility, but I don't know if it'll actually come here or not.
No.
But love to have them, I'm sure.
Okay, hypothetically, if you have stock, how long before you'll start turning a profit in this plant?
How long before it starts turning a profit? It's like,
I can expect a dividend.
that's. I'm gonna have to take you back to that slide with all the words that.
Always been speculators in
Yeah. There's not really much I can say to that as far as the dollar amount. Sorry. Yes, sir.
I'm a freelance writer, and I've written a number of articles about plastics manufacturing related plants in this area. And there are a large number of extrusion facilities around here, especially businesses that make plastic pipe and plastic bottles. And there are a number of injection molding plants in this area too. I always have said that the Rust Belt in this part of the country has turned into the plastic belt because Titusville, Meadville, Warren, Oil City, and Erie are all full of plastics manufacturing plants, and there are a number of plants in this area too that manufacture machinery used by the plastics industry. So this is an ideal location for a cracking unit that can produce the pellets.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as Rocky Blyer, I recognized him immediately because I met him when I was in college.
Ah, great.
But I think this is going to be one of the greatest things that's happened in industry around here probably since World War II. The number of plastic plants in the area plus the size of this construction project.
Yeah.
How it will turn out.
Well, thanks. No, that's great to hear. Yeah, it's it's significant the expectations that are around what this brings to the area, and that's always nice to hear. So thank you. Yes.
When you said decade, like when is it up, like
When we'll be up and running?
We have a handful of pellets in our hands.
I have some back at my office, but I don't, so when the plant will go operational, so it's a bit of a moving target, so the way we frame it is early next decade is the way we reference it. So I like to vaguely give myself about a 5-year window there, right? So it'll be early next decade, but I don't have a date on when it'll actually be. Yeah. Yes.
You're shipping a lot of it by rail or all of it. Is it going to distribution centers first, or does it go to a manufacturer? How does that work?
It'll be shipped directly to manufacturers.
Okay.
Yeah.
What we found when David was talking, a lot of our companies get their product from distribution centers.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as we know, there are no distribution centers in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any thought that there would, at some point in time, that would happen? That there would be a place for the smaller manufacturers? We have large manufacturers up here that are getting it directly from a producer.
Mm-hmm.
But is there any thought that there would be down the road distribution center for those pellets?
Good question. I'm not aware of any talk of a distribution center. I know, I believe at this point, the thought is that shipping out by rail and truck will go directly to those manufacturers, to our customers. So that'll be based on their order specifically. So, yeah, good question, but yeah, I'm not aware of anything like a distribution center. Any other questions?
Well, is there anybody
Yes.
within the Shell organization that we can potentially talk to about a possible distribution center being located in Northwest PA?
I could take your information and give that to our commercial team and see if there's an interest.
What we know is that in the 90s, there was one up here, and that, when plastic kind of went down
Hmm.
in the 90s, that one was pulled. But of 200 some businesses up in this area, a lot of them buy from distribution centers, and they're getting
Right.
a long distance away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a good question because I mean, I do know with the customer base being 70% of them, like I mentioned earlier, it's such a close area. I think the thought is to go directly to them, but I can certainly talk, if you want to give me your information afterwards, I'll give that to our commercial team and see if there may be something that I'm not aware of, but I could certainly find out the answer for you. Sure. Any other questions? Is it snowing out yet? I don't think so, right? 5 to 10 inches, is that what I heard on the way in? So about 15 minutes before I got here, someone on the radio said it was about 2 inches on the way, and then I got here and people are telling me close to 10, so what a... Yeah, I was gonna... Man, once you get north of 80, all bets are off, so... Yes, sir?
What's the projected life of ethane supplies as wet gas out of the Marcellus and Utica shales? I'm sure Shell has done projections and analyzed that for the life of the plant.
Yeah, so I've heard outside reports of more than 100 years of supply. For our project, for our plant, I don't know the projected life frame, but I would certainly be hopefully longer than I'm around. So I mean, I think our projections are long-term. We plan to be operating in the community for quite some time, but I couldn't give you a specific year range. But I think to do a project like this, I think the outlook is pretty far into the future. Yes, sir.
Is there any direction, you've got engineers that are putting this material together, do you have any testing to take it apart?
I don't understand the question. Testing to take what apart?
You make plastic.
Right.
The world, the oceans, or whatever, you've probably seen some of the problems there.
Sure.
Do you have any engineers that are working to unput it together?
Turn it back to gas.
Well, it doesn't have to go to gas, but I,
Well, it's
you
recycling.
got water, you got a
Mhm.
ring, it's been used 3 times through recycling, but regardless, it's still plastic.
Sure.
What do you do with it after you've done recycling?
Well, so we produce the plastic
Yeah.
and sell that to the customers. I think part of what we're trying to bring to the equation is an increased awareness around recycling. So it's interesting to me working with a lot of the municipalities, how much there's not much of a requirement in terms of recycling and those sorts of things. So working with them to is that right? So really trying to increase the awareness around recycling, and we're involved in putting together a number of strategies around that. Difficult for us to control, can't control everything, but we could certainly use our influence to help partner with the right organizations that increase that awareness, and like some of those environmental projects I showed you, doing things within the community that not only bring awareness, but actually make a difference, right? So it's I think part of that's going to be our partnerships that we create as we move forward into actually creating the polyethylene pellets.
We
Yes.
have a plant right here in Titusville recycles them plastic bottles in a mat.
Okay.
And I think we ought to look into more of that, or throwing it in the road, use it like asphalt.
Interesting. Great.
Their whole place ought to be plastered with plastic asphalt, around the buildings.
Yeah.
See how it works.
I've never seen plastic asphalt, so
Well,
is that?
maybe somebody will invent it. You see all kinds of roads everywhere else, green,
Yeah.
pink, and purple.
No, it's an interesting idea, yeah. Any other questions for me? I don't want to hold you up before the snow comes.
Don't be afraid. We love
Yes.
So you're doing a lot of environmental remediation projects now that you're in construction phase. Is that going to continue after the plan is up and running?
Yeah, it will, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm always looking for environmental projects. So we do a number of things on a national level. So we do things, for instance, with Ducks Unlimited, for instance, to help create the pathways and the feeding materials in the areas for ducks to migrate and so on. We do a number of things like that, but my focus is more on the local level. So what can we do to increase education, to give young people and adults access to training programs that would prepare them to take advantage of these types of jobs. One of the things we try to work towards is to make sure that local people can take advantage of these jobs. So doing things like that. Educationally, community-focused things, and then safety-related items. So those are some of the real focuses that I have, but I keep that at a more local level. So everything that I showed you tonight were things that we did in our local community in order to help better that area. So yeah, absolutely, we'll certainly still continue to do that as we go into operations. I have folks, I work with folks that run operational sites all over the country, and yeah, those are always, it's interesting working with our engineers and our folks on site. Everyone has things that they're really passionate about, so we work to plug them into those kind of things. We have a number of folks that are pretty passionate about that. Yes, sir.
You showed the Marcellus Shale, how it's located. Is the Utica Shale the same? Do you get the same stuff out of that to run your plant too, or?
Yeah, absolutely you can. Yeah, the ethane will come out of both the Utica and Marcellus.
Is that a wet gas that you use now, or is it more of a liquid or
Well, it's a gas. When it comes into the site, I believe it's a gas as it comes into the site. But there's a number of different components you can get in those, and those would be separated out before they come to our plant. So as far as we're concerned, we're taking in ethane specifically, yeah.
It's separated before it gets to.
Correct, yeah. Great, any other questions? Going once, going twice? All right, well, I appreciate you all having me up here tonight, and appreciate you coming out and on such a wet night. Thanks so much.